안녕하세요. Ask Me About Kpop에 오신 것을 환영합니다. 제 이름은 셰넌입니다.
Angelika입니다.
There we go. Today, we're getting back into serious study time. Not
Yes,
serious.
you know,
it doesn't have to be serious.
We're going back to our roots for our educational roots. So bust out your notebooks and pencils. It's time for a Korean lesson for K-pop fans.
Yes.
Led by our very own Shannon Locke.
Me. I did a Korean for K-pop episode like a year and a half ago, if not more.
Many years ago.
But I did it all alone because Angelica was missing and not missing. I say that like you were gone. She was not.
I had disappeared.
She was not with me.
No one knew where I was.
No, she was just not with me. And I kind of struggled through it because I was alone and had no one to bounce off of. But I mostly stand by that episode and will say right now, if you haven't listened to it, I would probably start there. Because I truly do get a lot of basics out of the way.
Will some of the things that you're going to cover today like build off of any of the like foundations?
Yes, definitely. I like fully have updates of like some of the things I recommended in the first episode because those things have been updated since I talked about it. But like overall, we'll get to it later, but I asked on the Discord for some questions, and a few of the questions that people asked me were covered in the first episode. No shade, but like I already talked about it. And that's mostly like very beginner stuff.
No shade, but know your history. Thanks.
No, but for
I'm just
real,
kidding.
not everybody listens to every episode. It's okay. I'm just saying I already said it, so I won't repeat myself now so that this is like a different episode.
Right.
But I guess, like, if you haven't listened to the first one and you just want to listen to this one, fine. My journey with learning Korean has been a very long one, and I still am not that great at it. But I know a lot more than I did 5 years ago, but I also don't study very much. So I also don't feel like I'm not an expert teacher or anything. I'm just trying to share what I've learned.
You have. Yeah.
So a reminder from part one that I feel like is the most important thing when it comes to learning Korean, which is knowing that there are 3 types of speech: informal, formal, and honorific. And informal speech is for people who are younger or the same age as you. It's very casual speech, and you can only talk to people that way if they have like expressly said that you can, because it's just very casual and kind of rude almost. And then formal speech, which you're most likely hearing all the time, that's when sentences end with like yo.
Yeah.
That's when you know that it's formal. And formal is always like the right thing to do, I guess.
When in doubt, always use formal.
Speak formal.
Yeah.
Because there are very few cases where it will be okay to speak informally. And like most places or lessons or whatever, people don't teach you to speak informally because it's not a thing to do. But there's another level, which is honorific speech. And this is when things end in like nida or like nika. This is super formal, and that's how they talk in the military, and it's how newscasters read the news. And it's super, super formal. And some apps and some books teach you honorific speech, which I think is a step too far, but it's fine. It's fine.
I know Duolingo uses some honorifics
It
in
sure
it as
does.
well, because I remember learning the difference between imnida and inika. Yeah.
So, I guess maybe since I did that one all alone, before I get into updates from part one, like, do you have any thought? Like, Angelica, what is your relationship to like the Korean language, and how do you feel about it? And have you ever, like, your curiosities or like whether or not it matters to you? I don't know. That's not a phrase of a question very well.
I think I know what you mean, though.
Yes,
like,
I'm trying to be like, where's your perspective?
Yeah.
on this?
Where am I on the language
Yes.
learning spectrum as far as like, okay, I am a K-pop fan and I don't speak Korean. Like, do I care to learn? What do I already know? I would say I definitely do care to learn. Like, I would, especially because you and I live in Los Angeles where there is a huge Korean population, and I personally live very close to Koreatown. We take a dance class with a group of people who mostly do speak Korean. So like, I think it would benefit me a lot to learn it. But I haven't put a lot of effort into it. So I know the alphabet.
Right.
And so I can read things phonetically. And I know like a handful of words, which I have picked up through mostly watching dramas and then like picking some things up from songs and stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I really don't have a grasp on the language by any means. I think that the only grasp I have is usually I can hear, if I'm watching something, I can hear like, oh, he has an accent because he's Chinese or something. I can be like, this person's a native Korean speaker and this person's not. Right. And that's it.
Yeah. Well, great. I just wanted to know that. And then that also helps me because I feel like I did the first part all by myself, so I had no one to bounce off of. So as a person with very little grasp on the language, please stop me and ask questions.
Oh, I will.
Be the listener surrogate this time.
Hand me that legal pad. I'm going to take some notes.
Here.
Yeah, I'm serious.
Great. Okay, so some updates from part 1. There was a section in part 1 where I talked a lot about the different resources and materials that I have used over the years to learn Korean. And one of them is the website talktomeinkorean.com. In the first episode, I talked about like, oh, they have all these podcasts, but they're kind of buried. Like the website's a little clunky, but it's all very good. Since then, they have done like a complete overhaul of their whole website. And so it's much cooler now.
Awesome.
And if you like create a little login, they have tons of free courses, but they're like split up into these nice little like checkbox. Like it's just laid out really nicely. And you like read the first paragraph and then it like checks it off on the side. So it's like a real like learning course.
Nice.
And they have their general grammar lessons, which I'll touch on later. And then they've started doing these cool things where they do like, they play a 5-minute clip from a drama and then they break it down like sentence by sentence.
Oh, I love that. I was listening to I did like a trial of an audio book because at the beginning of quarantine, I was like, I'm going to learn Korean. So I listened to a 30-minute lesson. Right. That's literally all I've done. I wrote down the lyrics to a song in Hangul.
Great.
That's it. But in that audio book, which was really good, I don't remember what it was. The whole set was like over $100. So obviously I only listened to the free trial. But it was really cool because it like played you a conversation of a man and a woman saying like, hello, do you speak Korean? No. Or do you speak English? No, I'm sorry, I only speak Korean. Okay, thank you. And it was like, by the end of this lesson, you will be able to understand the conversation and participate in it. So they like broke it down. So that's really cool. I love that. I think that's like the best way to learn a new language is with like practical
conversations.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Talk to Me in Korean, like full website overhaul. They have so much free stuff and it's organized really, really cool now and it will track your progress. And like, I think it's amazing.
Is there a paywall once you
reach?
Like,
there is a paywall, but the paywall just gives you extra courses. You can get quizzes. And then I think it gives you like a direct line to teachers for like suggestions on things you should work on.
Cool.
And they have a monthly and a yearly plan. And if you pay monthly, it's like $140 a year. But if you pay all at once, it's like $90.
Oh, that's not bad.
It's not bad. So Talk to Me in Korean. And also, like I've hyped this up in the other episode, but they make incredible books. I was looking at their shop yesterday. I hadn't looked at it in a while and they had new books. So like, oh, now I need those books. But they make really good stuff. They're like legitimate teachers.
Are the books like textbooks? Are they workbooks? Do they go with the video lessons?
They have so many kinds of books.
Different kinds.
They're like the Talk to Me in Korean curriculum, which I bought a long time ago, which is textbooks and workbooks, and they come with like a CD of like audio to go with them, and there's 4 levels. But then they also have like my survival Korean book that I lent you. That's a Talk to Me in Korean book. I have one that's like 500 days of vocabulary, and you get like 10 words a day, and there's a crossword, and like it's a little workbook.
Oh, fun.
They have like They have like easy read mangas like about Bong Joon-ho and BTS. So if you want to like get like elementary reading, like they have like storybooks, they have picture books, they have conversation. I have a conversation book that I really, really like. They just like have an incredible library and they're like very well made books. I love Talk to Me. I can't say enough nice things about Talk to Me in Korean, honestly.
Have to work out some kind of sponsorship.
I know, right?
Second episode,
Can
we've
you
hyped them up.
hear me? The next thing on my list that I wanted to update was when I did the first episode, I had downloaded Duolingo like 3 days before that. And I couldn't really speak to it because I hadn't played much. I have now played a lot of Duolingo and I have more things to say about it.
Yeah.
One thing that I learned very recently about Duolingo that I did not know is that you are supposed to, like in each level, get every single bubble category to level 1.
Yes.
And then go back to the top and get them all to level 2.
Yes.
And they'll compound on each other, but I didn't know that at first. And so some of my levels, I like took them all the way to gold. And then when you would go to play other levels, it was like it wasn't giving you... It like won't give you the next questions because you haven't
gotten
to the next lesson.
Yeah.
So that's something to consider. Is that you're supposed to like get them all to level 1 and then get them all to level 2 or whatever. Something that I hate about Korean Duolingo is the nonsense sentences. I assume that it's like that it's just supposed to be for fun and it's supposed to make you laugh. But I don't see what the practical application of like learning a sentence like the bed tastes delicious. Like what the fuck? Like, or the tiger cooked me hot dogs. Like tigers don't cook and you don't eat beds. So like, I don't know if like, if it's just supposed to be like nonsense and fun, but I feel like learning nonsense is like the antithesis of what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
So
that's
that
interesting.
weirdly bothers me.
I have the Korean I have Duolingo and I have Drops. And Duolingo,
I'll get to Drops in a second.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, both of them obviously were recommended by you. Although I had used Duolingo before to brush up on my Spanish like a while ago. But the Korean version was interesting because I knew like no Korean before starting the Duolingo. It's very interesting using it. Like I found that when I was using the Duolingo, like if I just played it, I almost felt like it wasn't enough to really give me any kind of retention. And so I ended up every time I played it, I had like a notebook next to me and I would end up like every sentence they gave me, they didn't give me nonsense sentences, but every sentence they gave me, I would end up like writing down and like dissecting on my own and being like, oh, this is the object marking particle. And this is the subject marking particle. And like this came at the beginning. And so I had to do like a lot of extra work with Duolingo. So and just a note.
That's very important and was my next point, which is that like Duolingo will not make you fluent.
No, it will not. Not at all.
But it will help you recognize sentence structure. I feel like Duolingo, like the way that it should be used is like just as a reminder, a way to keep your brain like thinking about Korean. But I don't think that the way that it's set up, that it's enough. You have to take notes. You have to do something supplemental because the fact that no matter how far you get into the game, because I'm really far into it, that you can always tap the question and it will like tell you the definition of the word. Like it doesn't make you learn anything.
Right.
And you can just basically like memorize the order of the way it wants you to put the sentence and like just tap it out and it doesn't like make you learn anything.
Yeah. That's how I felt about it too. That's why I like started taking notes with it because I was like, oh, well, this isn't really teaching me anything because it's frankly quite easy to like quote unquote cheat in Duolingo because you just like memorize certain patterns and then you can get through it or whatever. But Duolingo was helpful for hearing the sounds and like seeing how like these 4 different vowels are spelled differently and they all sound the same.
Yes.
It's like, oh, that's fun.
A positive to Duolingo that I'm happy that I wanted to share was I said in the first episode, and I still agree with this, I do think that Duolingo is too punitive. I do not like how it takes your hearts away so easily. And then you don't get them back for hours and hours and hours and hours. And I know I could like pay and help the tutors or whatever. I'm just saying that like the free version is very, very punitive. But Duolingo.com. If you don't use the app, if you go on the website, it doesn't take your lives away.
Oh.
You don't earn the same amount of gems. It's like it halved the like gem amount, but it like will just keep giving you more questions instead of taking your lives away. So if you like really want to practice,
I didn't
website
even know there
version.
was a website version.
I know. I
That's a good
discovered
tip.
it at work, and it's really great, and it's much easier to type, because the other thing about Duolingo I hate is that autocorrect will betray you. If like it asks you to type it in English, like your phone might be like, just kidding, and like switch a word, and then, oh, you lost a heart over it. So I like typing on the real thing. But yeah, Duolingo, there's just been a lot of talk in our Discord. We have like a language learning channel where people like give each other tips or whatever. And I've seen a lot of people being like, I'm playing Duolingo every day, but I still don't feel like I know anything. And like, that's because it's truly just practice. The only way you'll learn things is if you also have a notebook and a dictionary out or whatever.
Yeah.
So I do think that it's good practice. It's good to like get it in front of your mind and be thinking about things. And like, it will force you to understand sentence structure because you have to like put the bubbles together.
But it's not going to be, it's not going to
nothing.
teach you the language for sure.
Yeah. But somebody else in the language learning channel was saying like, I feel like I don't have any vocabulary, or like, I feel like Duolingo's not giving me enough vocabulary. And again, it won't. If you're just looking for vocabulary, the game you mentioned a minute ago, Drops, is your answer, because that is a strictly vocabulary game that only has vocabulary in it.
Yes.
And when I recommended it in the first episode, I don't remember if I said it out loud or not, but I meant to say that like my frustration initially with Drops was that like in the food category or whatever, they only used cognates. And I was just like, I know there are Korean words for these things.
Yes, I'm like still in the food section, because the food section is like the first one, and you can only play for 5 minutes a day. So you like don't get very far very quickly. And they're teaching me like poke, salad. And I'm like, okay, but what's the Korean word for salad? Like there's
And
no,
if there isn't
like,
one, then teach me something else.
then teach me something else. Yeah, like I can say salad.
Yeah. So on that note, I noticed very recently they added a whole new subcategory in the Korean Drops that's called Korean specific words. And they actually like took the time to be like, these are like native Korean vegetables that like have their own names instead of just writing like banana or whatever in the regular food section.
Yeah.
They've got this Korean specific words category that I love. There's a K-pop category that has really funny illustrations in it. Makes me laugh. But yeah, there's like more like actual Korean words in it. And I was like, there we go. Because I think Drops like Duolingo, like all these things, people make them for like one language and then they try to expand it from there. And I think, like I talked about in the first episode, Korean does have a lot of cognates because of like modern words. You just use like the English instead. But I don't know. I don't remember what I was saying.
The cognates.
The cognates. But the Drops was like only like it was like its initial Korean, like when they initially put it together, they were just like, you know, in the Italian version, these are the 10 vegetables that we use. But like, instead of taking the time to like find ones that aren't cognates, I don't know. Anyway,
Yeah.
they have a point is my Drops update was that they have a Korean specific words category now. And they have so many more categories than they did when I first recommended it. So if you're looking for vocab, that's your Drops will give it to you.
Yeah.
Because it's just a million words.
But I would say, like, again, Drops is some, I mean, maybe this is just me and my, like, anal retentiveness as both a student and an educator, that I, like, can't play Drops without a notepad next to me, because I feel like if I don't physically write down the words that I learned, I won't remember them. But that's just me.
No, but that's very fair. And I think I have a question coming up later about it, but maybe we'll just go there first. So I have some questions from listeners, and one of them was basically like, how do you get started? How do you study? And I feel like that's kind of a personal question. And I don't know if you agree as a teacher, but like, is learning just something that people like do their own ways and there's no like right way to do it? I don't know.
I mean, there's definitely, like, everyone has their own learning style. So, like, some people are kinesthetic learners, so it's going to really help to, like, attach the lesson with, like, a movement that you can like put it almost into your muscle memory somehow. Or there's like, if you're a visual learner, like I'm a visual learner, so I like to see things, I like to read things myself, and I like to write things down. So I like to make really elaborate notes, and that's how I remember them, because when I'm trying to recall them later, I can picture my notes in my head. Other people are auditory learners, which means that they learn by listening. It's a very rare type of learner. So like most people are not auditory learners. Most people are visual learners. So I would say like investing in a notebook is definitely a good idea. Like color coding is always really helpful. I know when I'm teaching my like elementary school students to study, I always you make them color code and do like outlines and stuff in their notes. Flashcards are always really helpful, of course. And then I think the best way to like scientific studies have shown that like certain things do help with retention. So writing things down, the act of physically writing things increases your ability to remember things, because like that kinesthetic learning, you're like almost physically putting it into your muscles. Also, if you learn something, like let's say that you learn a grammar rule or a set of vocabulary words, if you take the time to explain your understanding in your own words out loud, that is a really great way of, because like the step of full comprehension is being able to teach somebody else what you know. So if you can explain the lesson that you learned in your own words, even if you're not saying it to somebody else, if you just like practice almost like teaching yourself in the mirror, then that will also help with your memory retention. So those are some study tips from a teacher.
That's great. Because the thing that I was wondering about was I have my Korean notebook in front of me.
Which is so gorgeous.
I talked about it in the first episode. I've had this notebook for 5 years, and it's like different sections, and there's like colored pictures in it, and there's scribbly notes in it. There's all kinds of shit in it. But I've used it the entire time. Like this has always been my Korean notebook. But the question I was going to ask was about how to go about learning another language in the first place, because I think that the strategy that I took for myself was I was trying to think like, how do they teach babies how to talk? So I went from a very, very basic point of view where I was just like learning colors and placement words, like on top of like opposites, inside and outside, those kinds of things, and just trying to like learn those words and listen for them like a small child would. But I wonder if you, as someone who teaches English to adults, as an adult learner, is it better to be like to just memorize a conversation, because you know, like if you take a language in college, they basically just make you read a billion sentences of someone being like, "Are you going to the library?" Like, "I am going to the library."
Yes.
Like, "Do you have my book?" Like.
Yeah, you memorize a conversation that's like, "Hello, how are you? I'm fine, thank you. How are you? I'm great. The weather's so nice today, isn't it? Yes, it is." Whatever.
Right.
And then you just like remember that. I think that's like, it totally depends on the level that you're coming from, I think, because like I said, for me, like I started by learning the alphabet because I didn't even know like how to phonetically read.
And as a reminder from the first episode, I said that was the most important part.
Absolutely. I cannot
totally do
agree.
anything without it.
Yeah, you have to learn the sounds of the alphabet and like all of the different vowel combinations and stuff. And I'm pretty good. I still sometimes flip o and oo, but for the most part, I feel like I got them all. Yeah, I think that like, at least for me, when I teach English as a foreign language, I teach it in context. Like the curriculum that we use basically has like grammar rules, like 2 grammar skills per chapter or whatever. And we look at like, okay, this entire chapter is going to be about making requests and making apologies. And so we're going to look at like, this person has a problem with their neighbor. Let's look at how they asked the neighbor to do something. And then we look at the specific grammar rule that's like, okay, look at how he phrased that question. He used these 3 verbs. Like, here's how you can use can, could, and would. And then like we practice building like, so then we kind of start by like, okay, match the question with the answer. Then write your own question. Then write your own answer. Then practice the conversation. So it's like building. We call it scaffolding as a teacher. And then so that's what we usually do, is to try and like give you some kind of real world context. Because like you were saying with the Duolingo, like if you're just learning nonsense phrases or like, okay, you learned all of the colors, but do the colors change like depending on if you're using them as a noun or an adjective?
Absolutely they do.
There you go.
Right.
Yeah.
So
seeing them in action is important.
So that's why I think, like, to reiterate what I said in part 1, I think like the most important thing if you are sincerely trying to learn a language, and it's okay if you're just curious and just want to do one of these things, like whatever. But if you're like serious about it, I meant it when I said that you have to have like 3 or 4 sources that are your like learning things. Like Talk to Me in Korean will help you with that grammar stuff. The like first 2 levels are just very simple, like past tense, present tense, to, from words, like whatever. And each one will break down that grammar rule, which is great to know. But in order to practice your grammar, conjugate your verbs, you have to know verbs. So then get your vocabulary from a verb book or from a drops game or whatever. And then like play a little Duolingo to lock it in your mind and write it in a note. Like you have to, no one source is going to give you everything that you need. Like you have to supplement everything with another thing.
Yeah, totally. And I think getting different like modes of information, like where the information is delivered in slightly different ways. Like, okay, Talk to Me in Korean has this like audio that I'm listening to, and then Drops is giving me like pictures that I can identify with words, and then Duolingo's giving me a whole sentence. So then you're getting the different language presented, or you're getting the language presented to you in a variety of ways, which I think like obviously increases the sort of spectrum of your understanding.
Absolutely. So these next questions sort of went together. One person asked, one person said, like, I'm struggling with the sounds of the vowels, and like, how can I get over that? And like, simple answer, like with something like a Drops or a YouTube video where someone is explaining the like sounds of them to you, like repetition, like write it down, listen to it a million times. Flashcards. You will eventually be able to hear the difference between and o. I promise you will get it eventually. But somebody else asked, how do I overcome the fact that things sound alike but are spelled different, like ge crab or ge dog? Those are spelled different. And basically what I was told by somebody once is that if you are not a native Korean speaker and it is not the language that you learned from birth, you will never hear the difference. So don't worry about it. You will never be able to hear the difference. It's too subtle and you won't be able to hear it. You know, like when somebody like, oh, I came to this country 30 years ago and they don't think they have an accent, like, but they do a little bit, because like you'll never be able to unlearn that. Like,
or it's even like if you think about all of the different, English has the wildest spelling patterns. And there's like, rough, through, though, all of those are spelled with the O-U-G-H, exactly. And they have 3 completely different sounds. So you just have to like memorize it to a certain extent. There's no like trick for knowing when to use a certain.
And I think that's one of the most beautiful things about Korean is that like for the vast majority of the time, like the pronunciation is never going to be weird. It doesn't have those weird English exceptions. Like
there's no silent letters. There's no, like rough cough through the bullshit.
There's none of that. There is just like and and that like they sound imperceptible to your ear, and you just need to memorize which words use what if you're like spelling. But you're never going to be able to hear it, so don't worry about it. I specifically remember an episode of Roommate where Dongwook, that's that hot guy, was talking to the crazy God guy and Jackson or somebody, like people who don't speak Korean, and they were like asking questions. And one of them was, how do I know if it's spelled with this A or this A? And Dongwook just sort of like had to think about it for a really long time and was like, you just have to memorize. Like, there is no rhyme or reason. You just have to memorize it.
Yes, exactly.
So hopefully that's not a discouraging answer, but it like is the truth.
I mean, it might be a discouraging answer, but to be honest, like that's true of any language. Like there's, for any single language, like when it comes to spelling patterns, a lot of times there's not a hard and fast rule. So you just to a certain extent have to memorize it. But if you're not learning Korean for like, if you're learning Korean for fun or for conversation, and therefore not going to need it for like a professional capacity where you have to write it down, then who cares?
Yeah.
Like, you know, the most important part, I think, is knowing what the sounds sound like, what the different vowels sound like. And your advice that you gave me a long time ago, I think was the most helpful in learning the different vowel sounds, is to try and attach, like learn how your idols' names are spelled.
Oh, I love names.
Because then that honestly, I was like, a few weeks ago or like a month ago or so, it finally clicked for me, that aw sound, because it was a vowel that I always struggled with. And then I saw when Hyuna and Dawn went on Knowing Brothers, his name tag, Dawn, had that like aw sound. And I was like, oh, okay. Like now I can have some sort of like frame of reference for how to.
This is
like,
one of the first things I ever wrote in my Korean notebook. And it is Shiny, A-Pink, and 2PM's names all written out.
Amazing.
Because it was a thing I could do.
Yeah.
And it helps you like build, because I explained this in the last thing, and all Hangul lessons will teach you this, but like, you know, every little consonant is 2 to 4 sounds all mixed together, and you learn how it blocks out. And I think writing people's names is a really good way to do that.
Yes. Yeah. To start, because the one spelling pattern that like is consistent is the way that the syllables are broken up. So if you get used to that by using words or names that are already familiar to you, then that's helpful. Makes it a little easier.
This last question is kind of like, it will lead into a different thing that I wanted to talk about, which was somebody was asking about how they wish that they could understand better in dramas when people are changing their speech, like if they're dropping the formal speech or whatever, that they feel like the subtitle people don't often
they definitely don't
they never make notes of it. And that's a thing that I've noticed in a ton of dramas, and it drives me crazy. Especially when it comes to like people's personal relationships. What I remember specifically in Drinking Solo was that Gongmyeon's character called that girl Sem, which is like teach. So he was like calling her a casual name because she was his teacher and he had a crush on her. But they would just write her name in the subtitles. And I was like, but that's not what he's saying, and it's important or that he's saying something else.
I've noticed that a lot when people, like even on subbed reality shows, when someone will call somebody like Hyung or Nuna or use one of those like familiar terms, they just put in the person's name, and I'm like, that's not what they said.
And it's like, I get why they do that, because if you are a person who is on Netflix just watching a drama because someone told you to, like, you shouldn't have to like learn about Korean social hierarchy, and you shouldn't have to learn those words, but it matters.
Sometimes it's a plot point,
right? But I think that was the point, the major point that I'm getting to, which is that generally that like translation is, it's like a very, it's an art form, and it will never be perfect. It's like why the phrase lost in translation exists, because like somebody else was asking about like sometimes lyrics are interpreted differently, or like when an idol, you know, handwrites an apology letter, there are 6 versions of it. And how do you decide who is right? And I think you like can't really decide who is right because it's up to the interpretation of the person translating it. And I know I've sometimes been watching, and the point is that the context matters, because I know sometimes I'll be watching a drama and I can see the drama and I can see people's facial expressions and I understand the plot that's going on. But then the person who translated will use a word that I'll be like, that's not the word that I would have used for this. Like, oh, that feels like, oh, that's too serious of a word for this. Or that's, you know what I mean? And I think that's just sort of what translation is all about, is that there's like a bajillion words and they evoke different feelings in different people. And so when somebody takes a Korean something and translates it into English or Spanish or whatever, like things are going to be lost and there's going to be nuance and like people will interpret it however they want to.
Because this is true of every single language, and it's especially true when you're learning English, but it's like comes down to the difference between connotation and denotation. Like denotation is the dictionary definition of the rule, but connotation is the cultural understanding of that word's meaning. So telling someone like, you should do something versus you'd better do that technically they mean the same. It's like two ways to give advice, but the phrase you'd better has more of like a nagging tone to it. So we might interpret that as you being rude. So like there's so many different nuances to languages, which is why translations are very difficult. I know I was like just thinking about that the other day because I haven't squealed about this on the podcast, but V8 came out with a solo. And so I was looking for the translation of the lyrics. And there's like 4 different translations that I found. And they all had like the same, you could tell like the same general like keywords. But they're like, oh, this one's more poetic and this one's more straightforward. And this one has like a slightly different syntax to it. So I don't know. It's hard. Like always take translations with a grain of salt. I know we've said that before.
For sure. And on that note, like, just to know if you are the type, because I see it literally all the time, and it's fine that fans do it. Like, you know, a tweet comes out and you don't have time to wait for the translation and you just want to know what it is. So you copy it into Google Translate real quick. Just know robots are robots.
Yeah.
And they do their best, but they're usually wrong. But if you have to copy paste a translation, use Papago instead, papago.naver.com, because that's a Korean. So like Google Translate was written in English or whatever. Papago is like, it's more Korean based, but it's still a robot and it still is bad at context and it will still give you crazy definitions.
Yeah.
So just like I see too often, and it drives me crazy, like when a Twitter account like wants to be ahead of the news and will just paste something into Google Translate, like, ugh, don't do that. The robots don't know. But it can help. But I find if you're like having to use a translator, like paste the whole sentence in, look at what it thinks it says, start removing words.
Yeah.
Look at them all one at a time. Because like the robot is just trying to like decide the context, but it doesn't know.
Yeah.
And like sometimes you're just trying to get to like the dictionary form of a verb and like the website won't do it. So my actual suggestion, if you actually want to like get into translation or like do translating yourself, I own 3 different Korean dictionaries. One of them is only verbs. So if I was like legitimately trying to translate something, which I have done before, like when we're doing our like 90s episodes or whatever, sometimes I will have my fucking Korean dictionary open.
Yeah.
So that's just a thing. Like translation is just like it's just a messy thing in general. Always take it with a grain of salt. Always read a couple.
Yeah. And remember that the robot translations do not pick up on idioms. So if somebody says something that is actually an idiom, like for example, I saw this comment once that I like copy and pasted, and the direct translation was fish bread. It was like a type of fish bread, but our friend had commented this on a picture of myself and my sister. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Like, why would she comment fish bread like that? It's like saying croissant as like your comment. And I was like, what is this? But it's an idiom in Korean for 2 people who look very much alike.
Right, because those fish breads they sell on the street all look exactly the same.
They're like stamps. Right, exactly. So she was saying like, oh, you guys are like carbon copies of each other. But obviously that, like you type that into Google Translate.
It will say fish bread and you'll be like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Yeah. My favorite, I've always just wanted to bring this up because I don't know if anybody else has ever noticed it. But the way that Instagram tries to translate Korean is so confusing to me because it like doesn't matter what people write. I have like a couple of friends in Korea like who write all of their captions like entirely in Korean. And if you tap see translation, 85% of the time it translates it to I want to go to the middle of the day. I am going to go to the middle of the day. Mother, middle of the day, going to the middle of the day. I do not know what it is.
Really?
What phrase it thinks middle of but it will take a wall of text and like 80% of the time it translates it to I am going to go to the middle of the day. And I don't know what that is.
I wonder if it's like a weird programming glitch.
Yeah.
That's really funny. I've never noticed that, but I'm going to keep an eye out for it.
But
now.
Instagram is hard because Instagram doesn't let you copy captions. So like if you're trying to translate an Instagram caption by yourself, you have to write it down.
Mm-hmm. You've got to write it down. You might need to download like a Hangul keyboard onto your phone.
Ooh, that was another tip that I was going to mention is like if you are serious about learning or even casual about learning, download a Hangul keyboard onto your phone and onto your computer. You just go into settings, keyboard, and you can add it, and then you can type. Yeah, and that's important because learning how to type and like watching the way that the word builds as you type in the syllables is pretty cool.
But it is also tricky. Like I've tried to type in a couple of things into Google Translate and like getting the syllables to break up in the right way. Sometimes it doesn't break up in the way it's supposed to, and I like don't know how to move it over or whatever. But yeah.
So I think those were all of the questions from the listeners and all of the updates before I get into this like fun. I'm trying to remember if there was anything else that I wanted to say. We've covered notebooks. We've covered apps. We've covered translations and dramas. I guess I never really answered the question of how to tell when speech is changing in dramas. But I think the answer is learn like the first 5, talk to me in Korean, like first couple of levels where you can learn about what different speeches patterns sound like. Because of the very logical way that Korean sentences are arranged, you can tell if someone is speaking formally or not because every sentence will end the exact same way.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say. I was like, I definitely don't know a lot of Korean, but if you, I think, learn the formal endings and then try to like train yourself to hear them when you're listening to dramas, then
you can catch that context a little better. Yeah. All right. So this last thing that I wanted to do before we finished up is something that I did in the last episode. And it's a thing that I think about all the time, which is common K-pop words in that like words that come up in songs a lot. Yeah. And the ones that I pulled today, I feel like are extremely common, so much so that tons of these, as I was pulling the clips, that song also included 3 or more of the other examples. I tried to find things that are unique sounding so that they don't sound like other words, because that's the other difficult thing about like learning a new language, or like you're listening to a K-pop song and you think you hear a word, but that was actually the ending context of this word, because when people are singing, they syncopate things crazy and you can't always tell. So I tried to find ones like words that I always notice every time I hear them, so that even if you are a person who like doesn't have any interest in like learning in Korean and you listen to all this and you're like, cool, but I'm not gonna like learn anything. If you memorize the things that I tell you right now, next time you hear them in a song, you're going to feel smart. You're going to feel cool. You're going to feel like you understand like your K-pop in a way that you never have before. So just thought that would be fun.
Let's do it.
All right. So the first one on my list I brought up in the Hyuna episode, but to reiterate, this is probably like my new favorite Korean phrase because it's so long. It has like so many words in it, and it is in 1,000 songs. And this is 머리부터 발끝까지. Okay, so to break this down little by little. So 머리 means head or hair.
Okay.
And then 부터 is like from. And then 발 is your foot. 끝 is the end. So 발끝, like the end of your foot, the tips of your toes. 같이 is together, all together. So from head to toe is 머리부터 발끝까지.
머리부터
발끝까지. 머리부터 발끝까지.
I'm not going to remember that.
It took me a long time to learn it, but now I love saying it, and it's in so many songs.
Wait, let's see.
Here. This is a great learning thing. Try to spell things.
부터
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 발
발
끝
끝
갓
갓
가
가
가지
치. 머리부터 발끝까지.
Oops. See, you're almost right, except for this is a sound
double k.
and this one is a double too. But you got it right.
Yeah, got all my vowels right. What's up? So mori means head, to review. Mori means head.
Yeah.
부터 means
From
from. 발 means foot.
and
끝 is the end. 까지.
kachi is like all together.
까지 all together. Head from foot end all together.
Yes, see, Korean is backwards. That's all you have to know.
I love that.
So this next one is one of my favorites because it comes up a ton, but it's often confused as a curse. So we'll explain that.
Ooh,
and this is 눈빛. So 눈빛, 눈 means eyes or snow. I mean both. And 빛 means light. And 빛 is spelled, this is like one of the only like Korean pronunciation exceptions, is that 빛 is spelled pi읍, 이, 치읓. Chiot.
Beg your pardon.
Oh, all of the consonants have names.
Oh, I don't know any of the letter names. I just know the sounds.
Piep, I, chiet.
Oh. But this ending sound is a t.
If it's all by itself, it just is pit. You close it.
Pit.
But if you put a subject marking particle and put an e after it, it becomes pichi. Because the chiot then carries over into the next word. French has something similar.
Gotcha. Okay. And what did you say pit means?
Light.
Light.
So 눈빛 is often translated in lyrics as either gaze or eye sparkles or that look in your eye. But it's literally eye light.
I like.
But it's in a bajillion songs. Also, the word 빛 is in a ton of songs too, and it usually does have a subject marking particle, which makes it 빛이. So there's a lot of songs where people think people are just saying bitch, but they're always saying 빛이.
Pitchy. Yeah. Because we also use pitchy as Shannon, right?
Yes.
Doesn't Jenny say that in her solo?
I think so.
And that definitely sounds like she's saying bitch.
nanan. Yeah, she's saying it really
Pitchy,
hard.
Is this the subject marking particle?
Yes.
Okay, just checking. Cool.
So 눈빛.
눈빛.
You'll hear that a lot. This is another one that I heard in a billion songs and always wondered what it meant. And so I looked it up for this episode. And this is 멈출 수 없어.
날 멈출 수 없어. 멈출 수 없는 모든 날 멈출 수 없어. 저런 멈출 수가 없어.
So 멈출 수 없어. So 멈출 is like stop, halt. And then 수 없어 is it's like a sentence ending that you would learn about, which connotates the ability to do something or not. If you say 할 수 없어, that's I can do that. Or 할 수 없어 is I do not have the ability to do that.
Yeah, I was like, 없어 is
Yes, thank you.
없어 means lacking or that it is
You
not
do not
there.
have it.
Yeah.
할 수 있어. 할 수 있어. I can do it. But 할 수 없어. I cannot do it.
Right.
So 멈출 수 없어 is I can't stop. And it's in so many songs.
I didn't hear the two. Two.
It's 치읓 우이 추 멈출.
Oh, it's one of those blended vowels.
blended vowel.
Oh, okay. So I can't stop. Interesting.
Yeah. Next on the list is so the reason that I am like missing a lot of these clips or like I'll put them in later. But I got very, very distracted pulling this episode together because I love Korean onomatopoeias.
Okay.
There are hundreds of them. And the actual name for a Korean onomatopoeia is uteo. But they're all like almost all Korean onomatopoeias are 4 characters. And they either have an AB or an AB or ABAC pattern, repeating pattern.
Okay.
So like an ABAC one is like gongi jongi, which means like a huddle of people.
That's so cute.
Gongi jongi. And then the word I was going to do next is an ABAB one, which is panchak panchak.
Panchak, panchak.
조각이 반짝 반짝
So panchak panchak is like sparkling, blinking, twinkle. Panchak panchak. So your noonpits panchak panchak.
Panchak? Did I spell it right?
It's a double cha.
A double cha.
Yep, panchak panchak.
Cool. Hey, I'm not so bad.
You're not. And Angelica in the studio is using one of my favorite learning techniques, which is trying to spell things yourself. Because you might know way more than you think you
Yeah,
do.
the only things I've missed so far are the double consonants. I've gotten all the vowels right. Oh, no, not this double one. Not this blended one.
Whatever. Let's see. The next thing I had on my list, I didn't pull clips for this because it's too short of a word. And it just was going to take too long, but it's in a ton of songs. And this is the word apa.
Appa.
Not appa, like your dad, but apa, which means hurt or sick.
Up. Ha. With a huh.
Pa. Pa with a pa.
Oh.
Because apa is a...
Pa.
This is dad. Mm-hmm. And this is hurt.
Oh, with a p.
With a p.
Oh, I see.
So it's the dictionary form is apuda. I talked in the first episode about how all verbs have a dictionary form that ends in da, and that's how you conjugate it. But I think more like a lot of times in songs, people will say that like I'm hurt. But one thing that comes up more often in songs is apujima. And jimaseo is a verb ending that says don't do something.
So like in the GOT7 song Hajima, they're saying stop it.
Don't do it. And apujima is like don't be
Apujima.
hurt.
Does it mean don't hurt me or don't you hurt?
Apujima would be by itself, that would be like a command, don't hurt.
Apujima.
You could probably conjugate it to specifically.
Is the p vowel changing? Apujima? Okay, so it's no longer apa. It's
In the
apujima.
dictionary form, it's but then when you conjugate it, it becomes an instead.
Apu.
Apuda is the
Apuda.
dictionary form. Yeah.
And so then you can change the da to be jima. Apu.
Jima would be like stopping, and you could say like apaso, like it was hurt, or aporkoyo, I will be hurt.
Oy.
But that was that's just a thing you'll probably hear in a ton of songs, and you might think, is that dad? It's not dad. It's different. They're different. And they also, I've found, there is technically a word for sick, but I find that Koreans use this interchangeably, like hurt and sick. You use the same word, which I always thought was interesting because in English, those are very different
Different things. But maybe it's like a malady or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like how you can have an injury or an illness. Yeah, I have a hurt.
Yeah. Okay, this next one is another like very easily recognizable phrase because I feel like no other Korean sounds like it. And this is the word chewing gong.
Chewing gong. Oh, yeah.
주인공인
So chewing gong is sometimes in lyrics translated to be hero or heroine, but I think it more literally means protagonist or main character.
Yes. I said earlier in this episode that I had just written down the lyrics to a song, and it has 주인공 in it, and the verse is like, when I see you, I feel like the hero in an action scene.
Yeah. And I was very surprised when looking for clips that the NCT Dream song, Chewing Gum, does not actually use, like, I thought maybe.
Yeah, it was going to be like a pun.
It's always my ear catches it because it sounds like chewing gum.
Yes, it
which
does.
is such a weird thing for a song to have. So that's why I've always noticed it. So I thought maybe that song was like a play on it, like chewing gum and chewing gong, but it's not. They don't say hero ever even once in that song. It's literally about gum. They literally talk about spitting it on the ground. Like, it's about gum.
See, this is why SM needs a resident English
I know,
speaker.
because there was something clever, like right
it was
there.
so close. It was so close.
But yeah, that's a phrase that I feel like I hear all the time and always wanted to know what it means.
Yep.
And there it is. The next one we have, I think we might have said or joked about on the show before, but this is the word mail. Mail means every day, and it's very often repeated. I don't know why. I should find out the grammatical reason why, but there are a lot of Korean words, like same as there are a lot of onomatopoeias, there are a lot of words where you just say them twice.
Interesting.
I don't know if it's like for emphasis or if it means more if you say it twice, but like mail, like every day. Every day. Maybe it like...
Maybe it's like like mail means something along the lines of like day, but then if you say it twice, it means that it's a repetitive, like over and over, every day.
일 means one, and all of the days of the week, the days of the week all end in 일.
Okay.
So the 일 part, I think, is what it's implying the day. But you can just say mail once, but I find in songs they usually say it twice.
Interesting.
And we've used mail as a joke for our voicemail because they're not saying mail, but we're like, it sounds enough like mail, so it's funny.
So just like 주인공, we made a joke where SM did not.
Exactly.
We made a clever pun.
Okay, this next one is another like very K-pop specific word. And this is 춤을 추하다. 춤을 추하다. Okay, so 춤 by itself is the noun for dance. 춤하다 is the action for dance. But for whatever reason, you say 춤을 춤하 or 춤을 춤해요, 춤을 춤하다, 춤을 춤했어요. Whatever. But you say it twice, and the word dream is the same. You say gum. And I've tried a million times to look up why or what those kinds of words are called, and I don't know why, and I don't know why you have to say both. You don't always have to say both. I truly don't know. But it means dance.
Interesting. 춤 means dance?
춤.
The first part.
And then 춤을, the is a subject marking particle. 춤을, 춤하고, 춤을 춤하다 is the dictionary form. To dance. But I don't know why I have to say it twice.
춤을 means that someone is dancing.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
And 추거야? Is that how it ended?
춤을 추거야.
Did I spell it right?
춤을 춤하다 is the dictionary form, and then 추거, then it becomes 어.
So then what does this ending mean?
춤을 추거야. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah is not nice. So I know that much. That's probably just informally saying that you're dancing 춤을 추거야. I don't know.
Does this mark a specific subject? Like he, she, you? Just a subject. Mm-hmm. So like a person is dancing.
춤을 추거야.
Interesting.
Yeah. This next one you've heard a bazillion times, and I can point out specific songs where you can hear basically every conjugation of this word. And this is
Studio Chum.
Yeah. Chum.
Continue.
You got it. And this is 미쳐. So 미쳐, or the dictionary verb 미치다, means like to be crazy. 미친 is a crazy person.
Oh.
미쳐, I think it's a yaw for whatever reason. But the songs Crazy by 4 Minute and Go Crazy by 2 p.m. include like almost every possible conjugation of crazy because they use it a million times. And yeah, crazy is a word that could describe people or describe a feeling or describe the night or whatever. So it gets used a lot. So I just wanted to bring it up.
Perfect.
This next one is another thing that comes up in almost every love song at some point. And this is no wanna. No wanna means you and me.
Oh.
No is the informal way to say you. Wa is and.
Wa?
It's no. I'm sorry.
Oh.
But you got it other than that. No, not no. No wanna.
Wanna.
Got it.
Cool.
You and me. Yeah, so that's just a very common K-pop phrase. This next one I don't have clips for, but I just wanted to explain the difference because these are words that dictionary feel the same, but they're not the same. And they like are used interchangeably in K-pop, but I feel like their implications are different.
Okay.
And this is maum versus 가슴. So 가슴 is like the physical, your chest. Sometimes people use that word for like boobs or like chest or like heart. 가슴, like your actual chest.
Okay.
And then 마음 is more like your soul, like heart, but not your physical organ of your heart, but more the spiritual idea of your heart.
Okay.
So lots of like either one or both of these words are in tons and tons and tons of K-pop songs. But I think there's like a slight difference in them. Like in Replay, I think they say gasim because they're like talking about like a word from last time. I said dugun dugun, your heart beats and your gasim. But then your maumi apa, like apa from before, that's the phrase it's usually
My
like,
heart hurts.
My heart hurts because of what you've done to me, girl.
Because it's not my physical heart is aching, but my heart is broken.
My mouth.
Yeah. So one's a metaphor and one's more literal.
Yes.
Cool.
So just wanted to explain the difference between those. And I have one last one. And this is 하늘 위에.
늘 하늘 위로.
Oh my God. Like shocked me awake.
Sorry. So 하늘 is the sky. And 위에 is the directional word for above. To mark to mark a place.
Is that right? I feel like that's the wrong we.
Yes, it's an ui.
Ooey.
하늘 위에. Yeah, so 위에 means above, 밑에 means below, 옆에 means beside, blah blah blah. But 하늘 위에 is above the sky. But the way that it's used in all the clips I just played is 하늘 위로, and the 로 implies that you're on your way there. You're like 로 implies like traveling, like it's a road. So 하늘 위로 is like we're going up to the sky, and I hear that in a lot of songs. So it's not the same as heaven because that's its own word, but 하늘 위에, like above the sky.
Interesting.
It's so poetic.
It is poetic.
Yeah, so those are all the things that I wrote down.
Yay,
all the common
love
like
it.
some K-poppy words. Did some of those sound familiar? Like
Oh, definitely, for sure. I mean, most of them I had definitely heard. Maybe I wouldn't have been able to like recognize all of them, but yeah, for sure.
Great. Well, I hope that was at least slightly helpful, that was an update from last time. But I'm always encouraging everybody in their learning. I'm encouraging myself because I need it really bad. Like you mentioned way earlier in the episode, on the like second day of quarantine, I took out my study journal, my 500 words book and my everyday conversations book. And I like legitimately did a lesson and I wrote in my study journal, like, I'm going to do this every day of quarantine. I learned the words for quarantine and virus and I wrote them in the little like vocabulary section. And I was like, doing this. Nope, not even once. Not picked up a single book. Not even once.
Yeah.
So just know that I'm not trying to like preach to anyone because I mean this to myself as much as anyone.
Yes. And I think like on that note, as we try to pick up some quarantine projects, be kind to yourself.
Yeah.
Don't put a lot of pressure on yourself. Like there's so much going on in the world already. Like you don't need to make yourself feel guilty for not doing some Korean lesson.
Right.
Because you're all on top of everything else that you're already feeling and dealing with. Like this should definitely be something that is fun. So just like remember, no matter what your quarantine project is, to have fun with it.
Yeah.
And if it's not fun, then maybe walk away from it for a little while.
Very fair. Great advice. Love it. So if you want to talk more Korean learning or if you're learning another language entirely, like I said, we have that language learning channel on our Discord. Mm-hmm. There's some Korean learners in there. We've all like traded Duolingo IDs so we can be friends. There are a couple people learning German and a couple German listeners, and they're all like helping each other in there.
That's really cute.
So if you have any aspirations to learn a language or if you just want to like know slightly more about Korean, I truly do believe, because I've been doing this for so long and it all just like folds in on itself over and over again, that like every single thing that you do learn is like opening you up to like more understanding of stuff.
Absolutely.
Like I said, the only reason that I'm able to notice that a drama is like not getting the context right in the subtitles is because I can like understand enough to know that it's wrong.
Yes.
Or whatever. You can appreciate like a pun in a song if you know what the word is. So like every little thing you learn, even if you never are fluent, like if you know the days of the week, like, hey, that's fucking cool. You know the days of the week in another language. Or like I said, I truly encourage everyone to learn how to read Hangul. I think that it's like, it's truly not that hard. It's just memorizing shapes. There aren't that many of them. And then once you can do it, you can read another language, and that's fucking cool.
One of my favorite things to do when I don't do it anymore really because I don't like drive around, but I used to have to drive through Koreatown every single day because where I teach, the school where I teach English is in Koreatown. And so my favorite thing is like driving through Koreatown and like phonetically sounding out the words of the signs as I pass by, especially because every once in a while you get an English word that is just written in Hangul. So I'll like be at a stoplight sitting there like trying to sound out this phrase for like 2 minutes, and then all of a sudden I realize it says mattress outlet. I'm like, mattress outlet.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, it's mattress outlet. Okay, cool. But that's really fun. Yeah, and like that's neat that you can like learn another alphabet.
Yeah.
Especially like for me, I felt like when I first learned the alphabet, it almost felt like learning an alien language because the alphabet is just very different, and like the only other language I know, which is Spanish, has obviously still like the Latin alphabet. Yeah. So this was very interesting. It's like it's just so different from English. And I would say like when you were talking about learning the sounds earlier, like, oh, how can I learn the vowel sounds? I think reminding yourself that it's not English over and over and over again, and being like, sometimes there's not an equivalent sound.
Right.
And you just have to learn that new sound.
But actually, the thing I was saying earlier, like, while I do hate learning cognates and that it feels like I'd rather know what they call this in Korean if they don't use this cognate, it does help with the spelling and the sounds or whatever. Like one of my favorite quote unquote Korean words is cake.
Cake.
Because cake in English is barely a sound. It's like cake.
Yeah.
It's 3 syllables in Korean. Cake. And that just is fun. I think that's fun. And it helps you like recognize how words are like written out. And like when I buy Korean makeup, the titles are always like English. Like one of my Monster X lip tints is called Oh My Rose.
Yeah. Oh My Rose.
Yeah. But it's like so many letters.
Yeah.
So like that help. The cognates will kind of help.
They definitely help
the
for
vowels.
sounds in particular. Yeah, they're really helpful for sounds. And like we were saying, names are really helpful for sounds too. Like one thing I always found really helpful is that like Chen and Jongdae use the a, and you can hear that very, very slight a sound, and it's like just barely different, but that's literally every time I'm writing something, I'm like, is it Chen or Dae? And then
Hey,
there you go.
that's something. Yeah. All right. Well, we should go. We've been talking about this a lot. We'll be right back with a random game. Thanks for sticking through this Korean lesson. Yay. Okay, we're back. And this week we got a hip hop duo called Rubber Soul.
Yes, just like the Beatles album.
SOUL. They debuted in 2015 as a trio.
Yeah.
The members were Choi Cho, Kim, and Lala.
Lala left in 2017 for unknown reasons. And the group doesn't really seem to have, like, it says that they're still together. It says they're under Universal Music and Happy Tribe Entertainment. But it doesn't seem like they have a very big discography. Like, they have 1 EP and 3 singles listed.
Yeah.
So I don't know. And their EP, their one and only EP, came out in 2017 after Lala left. So I don't know. I mean, they went on, one of the members, Kim, was on Unpretty Rap Star 2. And then she was also on The Unit. But it doesn't seem like the group itself has been very active in several years.
Yeah. And I'm going to break our YouTube rules just because it seems like some weirdness is happening here with whether or not their videos have been uploaded properly.
Yeah.
So I found their debut music video, but it's a fan upload. So it doesn't have very many views. So technically it's maybe not the one we're supposed to watch,
Okay.
but I think we should watch that one.
Yeah, that's the one that we can find confirmation
That it's them
that it's
and it's
theirs. And
theirs.
yeah, so it's their debut, and their debut was a single called Life, which featured a rapper named what
Mad
did I say his name
Clown.
was? Yeah, Mad Clown.
All right, let's check this out. Here's Rubber Soul, Life.
Oh, right. I forgot this was hip hop. First, I was like, oh, man. Okay, so we've got
A pure white room, and then I'm guessing that's Mad Clown.
a lot of bucket hats and sideways hats.
Eye jewels.
And one of the girls has a lip ring.
Look at how severe that haircut is.
Yeah, that is intense.
Right hand, left hand, I go on my own way.
This is weird.
The best day.
It says the best day on the screen.
Happiness, sadness. Life's like a song of happiness. Happiness,
Whoa, the melody of this is very weird.
happiness.
Oh. Yeah, I don't know what to do with this.
Oh man, that perm is really ugly and bad. If my curls ever looked like that, I would be so fucking pissed.
Okay, yeah. One of them just has a bra and a sweatsuit and a bad perm.
Yeah. The melody that's being sung over this rap does not match with it in a way that hurts my ears.
Yeah, I don't like this. It feels creepy for something that's supposed to be life is a song of happiness.
Yeah.
This feels creepy.
It's not happy. Yeah, what's happening here? And the quality of the camera is obviously very high because the definition of this video is really good, but it also looks really cheap.
Yeah, because they're not doing anything. They're just in a white room wearing different
Quote unquote
hip-hop
hip-hop
outfits.
And they have 4 backup dancers. I guess Mad Clown dipped after his first verse.
And
then
yeah,
they
does
just,
that
put
girl
the
have a
lyrics
chin
on
piercing or is it just a jewel? I can't tell.
I
It seems
don't
like it's
know.
just a jewel.
Happiness, happiness, to your sadness.
Okay.
Oh no. And she's wearing like an equestrian hat with a net on
Like
it.
a funeral net over the front that
Yeah.
has like rhinestones in it.
If she was this good of a singer, why hasn't she been singing this whole time?
Ew. One of
There's-
those outfits was very
FUBU!
Thank you.
Oh, are you kidding me? You can't wear that!
I can't believe they pulled out a final outfit in this like last moments to just
Oh.
show it for like a second.
And it was FUBU!
I know. Oh
my God,
now one of them has a
another outfit
skateboard.
Wow. They had like 4 different
Oh,
outfits
they're wearing
in the
the-
last
that,
10
like,
seconds of
fucked-
that. Holy shit, I hated all of that.
Yeah, I hated that too.
That was
not fun.
not fun. I did not enjoy that at all. And you did not make me feel like life is a song of happiness.
No,
You made me feel
definitely
like
not.
life is a song of really ugly cultural appropriation.
Yeah.
And you should all be ashamed of yourselves. Mad clown. Get out of here with your nerd glasses. You
Is
did
Mad-
nothing for that song.
I have to look him up because I can't remember if Mad Clown is one of those people who like constantly has like horrible dreads and is like saying bad things or not.
No. He looked like a big old nerd.
No, he just looks like a nerd in all of these pictures. Maybe I'm thinking of that guy like Sonny. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, he does look like a full nerd in every single
He's
picture.
always
of him.
wearing these like little
Little bitty
wireframe
glasses.
glasses.
That must be his Luke.
Interesting.
Okay, anyway.
Well, that was that.
That was that. I don't have a specific recommendation this week because I'm in the past and I don't know if anything good has come out or like will be coming out or if there's something I want you to watch. I feel like most of this ep was like recommendations of things that you can do for learning Korean, and I mean all of those.
Is there any because like one thing that I think like one thing I've always loved as a tip for learning a new language, and something I do in particular with Spanish when I feel like I need to practice, is that I'll watch a show in Spanish with like either the Spanish or the English subtitles and like try to see how much of it I pick up. And that's really helpful. And I know I've heard so many different idols talk about how they watched a lot of dramas to help them like practice and learn English. Have you ever watched a drama that you thought like, wow, the English or the Korean, I just said English several times.
That's okay.
But you guys know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
The idols watch dramas to learn Korean. Anyway, have you ever watched a drama that you thought the people in it like spoke really clearly and you had an easy time like getting used to the sounds of certain things or like recognizing certain words or the way people talk to each other? Like,
There's not a drama that I can think of. Because the only time I've ever done something similar where I like put the Korean subtitles on is when I've done it watching Reply 1997, because that is a drama I have seen so many times that I know the context.
yeah.
So then if I watch it with the Korean subtitles on, I can like read along and like it helps you recognize words and stuff. But I wouldn't recommend that one because everyone has a Busan accent in that show. And like it's Saturi. It's like not the same thing. So I wouldn't recommend that. But a thing I was going to say on a similar recommendation is that on YouTube, there are like 10 million episodes of like Pororo and Tayo, the little blue bus, and all these like Korean children's programs. And I wonder if like those would be good because like the voice actors speak clearly and in high pitched voices. And like sentences are simple and people repeat themselves a lot because
Yeah,
it's like for
for
kids. So like that might be a good thing to do. But yeah, just like taking something that you are familiar with, like even if you wanted to like watch an episode of Going 17 with the subs on and then turn them off and watch it again. Like, because you know what was happening, which I think is so important. And like something I struggle with a lot with like listening like doing listening practice is I feel like I like miss out on the context. And then it's so hard to recognize words when you feel like you're just blindly hearing a sentence or something.
Yeah.
So like I find if I watch something with subs once, or like I've gotten to a place where I can look away from something where like, say I'm watching Knowing Brothers and I'm looking at the question that's being asked. And if I look away because I've heard the question, like now I'm recognizing words in the answer because I know what we're talking about.
Yeah. That's a good little tip. I like that. I personally really like, I've seen like some different like variety shows and stuff where they play language-based games, which I always think is really fun, and they should like do more of that.
Oh, yes. One of my favorites they played, there's like a really old Pentagon thing, and it's like called like Pentagon Nimdal Quiz or something. And it was like this really long game they played years ago. But they play that game where they get 2 letters, like mium shiot. And then they have to like come up with words that start with mium shiot. And then you like, I don't know, then you like learn a bunch of words because they're playing like word games.
Yeah, there was there was a Going 17 a couple weeks ago where they played this game where like one of the members was holding up the word and one of the members could see the word, and then the other member had to guess the word in a way, but like you had to give directions to draw what the word was, and then like they would show the drawing to the person who had to guess. It was like a multi-step thing or whatever. Yeah. It was like a complicated game, but it was really good for vocabulary because it was words like umbrella and cat and like whatever, things like that. So that's always fun.
Usan. Usani is umbrella. Koyangi is cat.
Yeah. So like if you are like the word is above you and I'm going to you have like a pad in your hand. I'm going to tell you, okay, draw a half moon on its side and then draw a vertical line going down that ends with a U.
And look at
and
that.
then you have to like show it to somebody and be like, it's an umbrella.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah. When other people are playing vocabulary or like word games. Yeah. Just pay attention. Yeah. And like I said last time, like use your love of K-pop to give you something to do. Like I talked in that first episode about practicing my translation with unsub Triple H videos. Because they're unsubbed and it gives me a project. It like gave me a project because I was like excited to be watching Triple H videos. So write down your idols' names. Just transcribe the lyrics to a song that you like.
Especially a song that you like know very well, because then you can start attributing the sounds you're familiar with to the like what the letters look like.
Yeah.
And you can start to get a better phonetic understanding of the language.
And you can hear it better.
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes if I'm just like listening to a K-pop song, I'll hear like M sounds as N sounds, or I like won't catch the ending of a word. But when you look at the lyrics, you're like, oh, I do hear it in there. Like they are closing off that sound or whatever.
Yeah. Or you can also, on the opposite side, hear how they blend some of the syllables together. And they're like, oh, he's dropping that syllable.
Right.
Baekhyun loves a dropped syllable.
Absolutely. Yeah. Idols who drop syllables or speak in slang, or like foreign members who are pronouncing things weirdly. Like that's always something to watch out for.
Yeah.
Okay. I could talk about this all day because it's so interesting to me and I love it, but we'll stop for now. And if you would like to get in contact with us, share your learning tips or ask Korean questions or whatever, we can be found at AMA Kpop Pod on Twitter and Instagram, amakpoppod@gmail.com for emails, 181-AMA-Kpop5 for voicemails. Ask me about K-pop the podcast on YouTube, AMA K-pop on Spotify, AMA K-pop Pod on Discord. Those are all the places. And we'll try to be back next week. Glad that we've been able to keep this rolling.
Yeah.
Stay safe, stay sane. We love you guys very much. Goodbye.
Bye.
How do I leave? I'm the one leaving. Am I the one leaving? Or are they the ones leaving?
We're the ones that are leaving.
안녕히 계세요. Yeah. 안녕히 계세요, 여러분. 사랑해요. Chongyan, you're our inspiration.